Now we're going to practice adjusting an image with curves. So you should have your chef image still open. You should have two layers in your layers panel. You should have a levels layer that we worked on previously and a background layer. What I want you to do is go ahead and create another duplicate of the background. Again, go up to your flyout menu in your layers panel and click on duplicate layer. Go ahead and name this duplicate layer curves and color balance. Oops. Color balance and click OK. I'm going to move this, this layer to the top of my layers panel. I'm going to hide my levels layer for a moment being, so click on that visibility or eye icon on the levels layer and make sure you're working on the curves and color balance layer. So levels, which we did previously, gives you 3 levels of changing your color on your image. It gave you highlights, midtones, and shadows. The really cool thing about curves, which we're going to practice now, is it provides an infinite number of points along that line that you can change. Go ahead and let's open up our curves panel. Again, make sure you're on the curves and color balance layer that we've created. So open up image, adjustments, and right underneath levels is your curves option. So when you open up your curves panel, I want you to go ahead and notice that you have an x-axis, which is horizontal, and this represents the original brightness and values from 0 to 255. This is the input levels. You'll see there's an input down here. Then you'll notice on the y-axis, which is our vertical axis, there's an output. It's written output, so you've got the y vertical output axis. This represents the adjusted brightness value, so the output levels from 0 to 255. So 0 being black, 255 being brightest pixels. Again, we're going to try, we're going to go ahead and use these eyedroppers, very much like in the levels panel. You'll see you have a black filled eyedropper, which where you set the black point, the midtones to set the gray point, and the white to set sample the whitest point. So I'm going to move this over so we can see our chef a little bit better. Go ahead and grab your black eyedropper and click it. And again, we're gonna select the hair on the chef again as our darkest point. And you'll see that the histogram in here has changed. Then go ahead and use the eyedropper, the white eyedropper, to set the brightest point. And again, we're going to go ahead and select the smock of the chef as the brightest, whitest point. And you'll see that has changed. And then you can go ahead and also change the contrast using curves. So go ahead and position your cursor at the center of this histogram. We're going to go ahead and call this the crosshair. Notice when I move my mouse, you'll see in the input and output right here, the output and the input, as I move my mouse and center it, there's different numbers that appear underneath it. Go ahead and center this as close to the middle of the box as you can, and try to get about 126 by 126. I'm going to go ahead and go for that. Oh, look it up a little bit. And what I want you to notice is as you get this centered and you drag to the right, so click and hold down and drag to the right, and you'll notice that the image gets darker. If you drag up and to the left, you'll see the image becomes lighter. So this is how you can have like infinite control on the darks and shadows and the highlights of your picture. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe just leave it right here. The next thing I want you to do is to practice, such as change the contrast. I want you to adjust the contrast using the curves command. So if you click in the upper right square up here, you see this little tiny white square, and drag it down on the graph, to about of an output of 239. See, my output is changing, and an input of 255. This is going to decrease our contrast. And if you click on the square in the bottom left corner, which is going to increase our contrast, and drag it up to output about 11, you'll see that increases the contrast. So you have control over these points and dragging them to use the input and output to increase and control the contrast and brightness and midtones of your picture. Go ahead and click OK after you've completed this curve practice, and keep the chef open for the final exercise.